Hello everyone, welcome to Math with Mr. P. Today we are going to be doing 6th grade math, chapter 6, lesson 1. We're going to be talking about powers and exponents. Our vocab that we're going to be using today is base, exponent, powers, and perfect square. So let's go ahead and start with what an exponent is. An exponent would look something like this. So if I give you 3 with a little number above it like 4, this is an exponent. This actually means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. Or we take our bottom number, which is known as our base. That number is going to be multiplied by itself however many times this little number here says. And this little number is our exponent. So 3 to the power of 4 is how we would say this. Means 3 times itself 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 times 3 would be 9. 9 times 3 would be 27, times 3 again, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8 would be 81. And if we look on our calculator, we can actually put 3, and then this little button here with the X and the Y tells us it's going to be 3 to the power of 4, and we can click equals, and it'll give us 81. And so our answer is correct. So let's go ahead and go over base one more time. A product of like factors can be written in exponential form using an exponent and a base. The base is the number used as a factor. The exponent tells us how many times a base is used as a factor. In English terms, again, the bottom number, or the bigger number, the larger number, I should say, is the base. So this 10 would be our base. So I'm going to see if I can write base down here. Base. Our 2 is our exponent. And these here, 10 times 10, this is it factored out. So I could write factors here. Factors. I know the C didn't make it. So let's go ahead and rewrite this in a simple way. And this should be in your notes. I'm going to use different colors here. So 10 would be our base. When you see a little number in the top right-hand corner, that is known as our exponent. What our base does is it's basically our factor. It is telling us we're using the number 10 to multiply by itself, and then the exponent tells us how many times. Since this is a 2, we're going to multiply 10 times 10, and that's it. 10 times itself twice. So 10 to the power of 2 would be known as 10 times 10, which is 100. Now this is it factored out. This is us showing that 10 to the power of 2 equals 10 times 10. If I were to change that exponent to say, I don't know why I just erased that. Let's just erase this. If I were to change that exponent to say maybe 3, this would become 10 times 10 times 10, or 10 times itself 3 times, which would be then 10 times 10 is 100, times 10 again would make this 1,000. And if we ever do need to check our work, again, you can go into the calculator function and type up 10, click the little XY button to the power of 3, and this should equal 1,000. All right, moving on. Write products as powers. So if they were to give us like 10 times 10, we would write this as 10 to the power of 2. This is known as a power, 10 to the power of 2, or 10 times itself twice. Numbers expressed using exponents are called powers. So when I put a little number in the top right-hand corner of a bigger number, or a larger number, I should say, it becomes a power. It becomes an exponent. For example, 100 is a power of 10 because it can be written as 10 to the power of 2. Numbers like 100 are perfect squares because they are squares of whole numbers. We're going to go on a little tangent here. This should be in your notes, and I'm going to use an X as a placeholder since we're doing algebra. Anytime something is to the power of 2, I'm going to pick a different color. It's known as it being squared. The reason why it's squared is, say we do 3 to the power of 2. I would do 1, 2, 3. This is not going to be nice. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then 1, 2, 3. You'll notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is 9. 3 times 3 equals 9. It makes a perfect square. So anytime you multiply a number by itself, you're squaring it. So instead of saying 3 to the power of 2, I can say 3 squared. Now, the same thing is going to happen with 3, but this is known as it being cubed. When I bring something to the power of 3, I make it 3-dimensional. So it would be, let's say, 3 to the power of 3. It would still be 3 here and 3 there, but now I make that third step here. So it'll be 3 by 3 all across, and it'll be cubed. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 again would make us 27. 27 being a cubed number. So 3 to the power of 3, or you could say 3 cubed. So very important that you guys add these into your notes. Any other numbers don't really have a name. So if it's like something to the power of 4, there's no fourth dimension. So we don't have a name for it. We just say, you know, that number to the power of 4, or that number to the power of 5, that number to the power of 6. Now, really quickly, if anything is to the power of 1, we're not multiplying it by anything. We're not multiplying it by itself one time. It's just that number. So we're never really going to see this with 1 as an exponent. That's kind of like saying plus 0. It doesn't do anything. All right. And then, of course, cubed, again, is when you have 3, exponent 3. So our example of a perfect square and an example of a perfect cube, or cubed. Now, what the homework is wanting us to do is to start doing factors like this. So this is a factorized problem. It's 6 times 6 times 6 times 6, or 4 sixes. They want us to write it as an exponent. All I have to do is do 6, which is our base, and multiplied by itself 4 times to the power of 4. And that's it. The factor here in number 2 is 4. That's the base. The factor is multiplied by itself 1, 2, 3 times. So the exponent is 3. It can be written as 4 to the power of 3, or as we learned earlier, if it's to the power of 3, it's cubed. Now, like I said, this is going to be pretty much a short video. So we're going to go ahead and do these. 7 times 7 times 7 times 7, write each product as an exponent. This is 7 times itself 4 times, so to the power of 4. Pretty easy. 9. This is where I'm going to use my highlighter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Or just 9 to the power of 7. And that's it for those two. Write powers as products. Now this is the opposite. So if I get an equation or an exponent like 5 to the power of 2, that's the same thing as saying 5 times 5. 5 times itself twice. 1.5 to the power of 3 is just 1.5 times 1.5 times 1.5. 1.5 times itself 3 times. Now, please be aware that you need to read the directions, because if it asks you just to write it as a product of the same factor and then find the value, you're going to have to do that second part. So over here, we didn't solve. 5 times 5 is 25. And down here, 1.5 times 1.5 times 1.5 is 3.375. Now remember, it is not 1.5 times 3. It's 1.5 times 1.5, and then you're finding that answer and multiplying it by 1.5 again. And over here, 1/2 cubed means 1/2 times 1/2 times 1/2. It is 1/8. If I multiply 1/2 by 1/2, it becomes 1/4. 2 times 2 is 4. So remember, we multiply straight across. And then 1/4 times 1/2. 1 times 1 is 1. 4 times 2 is 8. It becomes 1/8. And we're going to go ahead and do this one, and we're going to call this one a video. Write each power as a product of the same factor, then find its value. So C is 10 to the power of 5. 10 to the power of 5, which is also known as 10 times 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. Now this one's going to be a little hard, and this is going to be multi-steps. So there's different ways we can do this. I can do 10 times 10, which I know is 100. Then continue to multiply it by 10, which would be 1,000. Then multiply it by 10 again, or I can actually group. I know these two 10s will be 100 as well. So since I multiplied this 10 and made 100, then multiplied it by this 10 and got 1,000, I can keep this. So these three 10s would make 1,000. These two 10s would make 100. Now what I'm going to do is take this 100 and this 1,000 and multiply it together. Now there's a shortcut here. I would just add these two zeros to this. So instead of 1,000, I would add two more zeros and it would become 100,000. Please make sure you show your work when you guys are doing these questions. Now, I can also use my calculator to check my work, not to do my work, but to check my work. 10 to the power of 5 should be 100,000, and we did it correctly. So it is 100,000. So it was two parts. We needed to find its value and we needed to factor it out. We're on D. Letter D is 2.1 squared. 2.1 to the power of 2, or 2.1 squared. This means 2.1 times 2.1. This also means 2.1 times 2.1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 0. 2 times 1 is 2. And then 2 times 2 again is 4. We're going to add these together. 1 plus 0 is 1. 2 plus 2 is 4. 4 plus nothing is 4. Two numbers after a decimal. So my answer should be 4.41. So remember, this is my second part of my answer. This is my first part of my answer because it wants me to write it as its multiples of its own factor. And we're going to go ahead and check our work. Sorry, my cats are running around fighting. So 2.1, and then there's this other button here that's squared. This is a shortcut. So instead of having to press this and do the power of 2, you can just square it right here, which is 4.41, which is what we did. And if you notice here, SQR means squared. That 2.1 squared is 4.41. So we did this one correct. And last but not least, E, 1/4 squared. 1/4. And it does put in parentheses just to avoid the other numbers. Can you guys stop? Thank you. This will mean 1/4 times 1/4. Or 1 times 1, which will be 1. And then 4 times 4, which will be 16. And my answer will be 1/16. Well, since the cats are fighting and running around, we are done with the chapter, or the lesson, I should say. We're going to call this one a video. As always, please make sure you go back and fill in your notebook with as much information as possible. If you have any questions, you can comment or you can reach out to me. I am Mr. P, and I'll see you guys in the next video.